Hello, my name is Paul Chang. This is my introductory lecture for overview of the course and review of the syllabus for RLST 010 Introduction to the Bible. This is for the summer asynchronous online class. The most important probably information to start off with in the beginning is that at the top of the syllabus is my email and then the emails of my teaching assistants, Fatime and Chris. If you have any questions, please email us and we will try to respond. All the lectures are online at my YouTube channel, which if you're watching this, I think you've already found. Our textbook is Robert Kugler and Patrick Harton's An Introduction to the Bible. The course description is that it's a preparation for the informed study of the Bible, and that we will be examining contemporary interpretive stances, history, methods, and major themes in significant portions of the Bible. We'll actually run through basically the entire textbook, which covers all of the Bible, all of the canonical Christian Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Or Apocalypse. Okay. The course objectives are that by the end of this course, students should be able to name various theories concerning the origins and sources of the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament and the New Testament. They should be able to explain the historical facts and contexts that the biblical texts address. They should sketch the contents and genres of the biblical books themselves, and then you should be able to elaborate on the important theological claims that emerge from the biblical text. So, in other words, you should understand some of the scholars' best understanding of where we got these texts, authorship, sources. You should be able to understand the history, what was happening at the time, when were they written, what was going on in the world, what was going on in the communities that these books were probably written in. You should understand the content and the genre of the texts themselves, what they say, and then you should have some understanding of theology, some of the most important claims, ideas, arguments that come out of these texts that have influenced religious communities, be they Jewish, Christian, Muslim, or even other kinds of religious or even secular communities that are based in these foundational ideological claims that lay at the heart of much of world civilization and culture. Okay, this is certainly the most important book that has ever been written, and I think a certain amount of biblical literacy is important for anybody who wants to understand the world that we live in. So this course is entirely online and asynchronous. So mostly we will be interacting like this. I will be posting videos. You will be watching them and writing essays, and I will indirectly be responding to those through future videos. It is also adapted to the changing world we live in, where AI is largely available and powerful. And so I'm experimenting with different ways to kind of adapt to the changing world, and I reserve the right to change grades, weights, structures, assignments if necessary, although I'll try my best not to change them too much, and I don't foresee needing to change them too much. But there are always new elements. I'm constantly tinkering with pedagogy or the way my courses are structured, so this is new, and please be patient if we have to change things. And to be fair, on the other hand, I will also try to be patient, and I will also try to be open to any changes you may want to make as a student. If there's anything you don't like, if they're having trouble with anything, let us know. We will try to be flexible, but you do have to let us know. If you don't let us know, we can't understand if you're ignoring us or you're failing for perfectly understandable reasons, right? Or even mistakes that we're making in the structure, teaching, or grading of this class. Do reach out. We'll try to get back within 48 hours. You will need some basic technological literacy to access this class. You'll need to be able to get on YouTube, use Canvas, use Docs or Word. This is a writing and reading heavy class. This is a humanities class, as I understand it, which means really reading and writing are our currency. We will not be using mathematical models. We will not be using any sort of borrowings from the sciences to understand human behavior. We will be using purely, or not purely, but close to purely, words and ideas that are unquantifiable, but still very powerful. And If I may put in my short plug for why the humanities still matter, I think it's pretty obvious actually how powerful words are, more than ever, in this kind of media age where we have politicians and marketers all the time using words to try to influence you, to try to manipulate you. And if we don't teach them at schools, if we don't teach them in places where I don't have a motive, I'm not getting paid commission, I'm not trying to get you to vote for a particular um, person or movement, then we really abdicate the ability of our citizens, of our communities, to fight for themselves, to forge their own independent destinies as human beings, as members of communities, even as functioning members who can hopefully get a job one day. I think mastery over words and mastery over ideas is one of the key building blocks to doing that, to making sense of our world, right? Politicians do not just show spreadsheets and argue about numbers, as powerful as the sciences are, right? Marketers neither try to use percentages to convince you to buy this brand or that brand. They tell stories, they use narratives, they evoke fear or desire, and words are the primary means of doing that. Words matched with images usually, or other things surely, but words are at the core of that, and very powerful part of that. And as we process them ourselves, um, I think the humanities done well can be a way for us to process and order our own desires, our own fears, our own thoughts, and hopefully to filter some of the bad information we get, some of the manipulative and leading arguments that we get, and think more clearly about how those resonate or don't with our own truly deeply held values, so we can create a better future for ourselves and the people who matter to us. Okay? Textbooks, or the textbook. Please buy it. We will be reading it cover to cover. It's not so expensive. Digital is fine. If you do not buy it and you do not have proof of it by the end of first week, you will be penalized. If you do buy it, you will get extra credit. A small amount, but still, it's good. It's not that expensive. It's much cheaper than your your science and engineering textbooks and business textbooks and many others. I don't make any money. I don't know the authors, but it's a good book, and we will be reading it carefully. So it is not a waste to go to buy it, please. The weekly essays. You will write 2 short essays, 400 words or more per each week. Each essay has to pick 3 of the most important things you learn from 2 or more of the chapters in the given week. So group 2 of the chapters each week. The chapters are relatively short, but we're going to be reading about 10 chapters a week. So it's a lot. We're going to be moving quickly through the book. As part of that, you don't have to read in great detail. You can kind of skim things, make sure you get the general gist of it. It will be easier if you already know a lot of the biblical stories, but if you don't, it's fine. The book, part of the strength of this book is that it gives a very good, accessible overview of the content of the Bible, of the stories, of the arguments, of the poems that are contained in these kind of texts. But anyhow, you need to pick at least 2 of them for each essay, each 400-word essay, and pick 3 of the most important things you learn from these 2 chapters. And then you also need to pose a question. So the question can be something you didn't understand from the material. So like, I didn't understand this phrase the author kept using. It can be a critique or an objection to the material. I didn't like the way the author used this language or presented the material in this way. It can be a request for further information, right? The author said such and such about King David, but there was a lot more I wish I could have known. What do scholars think about, this aspect of David's career or that? Those are all good questions. So I want 3 things you learned and a question and some explanation of why you picked them, why that's important, right? And then when you write 2 essays, like most weeks you'll be writing 2 essays, I want to cover 4 separate chapters, right? So if we're covering about 10 chapters a week, as we are, I want at least 4 of them to be covered by your essays. And you can certainly do more. If you want to group all the chapters into a group of 5 chapters and pick the 3 most important things from those 5 chapters, 3 most important things from the other 5 chapters, that's great. Challenge yourself. Try to synthesize and absorb more information. You will learn more. You will get more out of this class. Okay, and then here's where the adaptation to modern AI begins. You can write your essay the old-fashioned way. Right? If you write your essay the old-fashioned way, you need to write at the top, This essay was written without any help from AI. And then just write your 400 words and we're good to go. Practice. Practice your reading, your writing, your listening. I will be posting video lectures to help supplement textbook, and that's great. The one thing I would say with this is that if you choose to do this method, not to use AI, then you need to write that. You need to stick with that. You need to be honest about it. If there's any proof, if we suspect you use AI, if we run it through AI checker and we can, produce the same results, or it becomes suspicious or anything like that, we reserve the right to treat this as a plagiarism or academic integrity case, right? Because you're passing off work that's not your own. And then we will have to refer, or we may refer you, depending on, how it goes, to student conduct and academic integrity programs. There is an office on campus. I've worked with them before. Unfortunately, I hope I never have to work with them again, but I am not hesitant to refer cases there for integrity, right? I think, anyway, it's important to try to live with integrity as much as possible, especially because there is a second option, which is that you can write this essay with help from AI, in which case I want you to write, this essay was written with the help of blank, right? Where you just fill in whatever program or programs you used to help you write this essay. In that case, okay, if you're going to use AI, before you use the AI, I want you to write the 3 things that you think are most important and your question, but they can be very brief, just 100 words, right? In this case, just like, X, Y, Z, these are the 3 most important things. This was my question before I ran this by AI. Then, produce your AI, your 400 words produced by AI. You can put that on, and then I want you to read it. I want you to read what the AI gave you, check it, and then if you have anything to change it. AI creates a lot of hallucinations. It creates a lot of problems. It is very powerful, and is a better writer than any of us will be in some ways. It is, but it also, has a very so far often has a certain kind of style, and some of you are probably better writers than AI in your own style. So be willing to change it. And certainly, if there are factual problems, right, the hallucinations, the errors, I've definitely seen. I think we've all seen some pretty significant problems that AI can generate. You are responsible still, even if you run in the AI, even if you say I wrote this essay with the help of XYZ, AI model. You're responsible for what you put on the page. So show that, right? Edit it, change it, make it better, right? If you feel like, and then mark that, change the color, right? Or something like that. You put the AI text in black, let's say, and then everything you did in blue or green or red or whatever, to show what you changed, how you changed the model. And then, so we can check your work. You say you ran this into, DeepSeek or whatever, and then we can say, okay, yeah, we did the same thing. We see what you did, what you changed. This is great. Okay. You need about 100 words, though, at least, to explain what you changed. If you choose to change nothing, if you really think, ChatGPT was absolutely perfect, then still write another 200 words on why you think it's perfect, what you learned from it, right? Look at what you said before the AI helped you, and then look at what the AI did for you, and you can then, write a short 200-word reflection on what you learned and why AI is so much better than you, or you think, right, that you didn't change anything. That's totally fine. But still take ownership of it, right? Because you still want to be hired, right? You don't want to be completely replaceable by AI, and in a way you're not. The problem with AI is that sure, it can generate lots of text and things like that, but it cannot be held responsible for it, right? No one is suing ChatGPT. Well, they are, I'm sure. But, companies want to hire you and not just plug things into AI, because you hopefully can check it. Hopefully you can maybe use it if it's helpful to create memos, to create marketing, to create communications, letters to clients, whatever, to other departments in whatever company or institution is lucky enough to have you. But if there's a mistake, your boss will want to call you in, right? We'll say, you produced this writing. Why does it have inappropriate text here? Why does it have false claims here? And you can explain, oh, those are not false claims. I checked it carefully, right? I know what's there. That's actually true. I did the research. I did the work. I had a problem too, but I did the work. Or, you get caught, right? And you just say, oh, I just copied. So I'm hopefully making you a better user of AI, more thoughtful user of the tools that are available if you choose to use them, if you find them helpful at all. This will be the same with the midterm midterm and the final, they'll be longer, 1,600 words, and they will be persuasive. So whereas the weekly essays are a way for you to get some sort of content mastery, for me to see you engaging with the material and learning things like what does Genesis say, what does the book of Romans say, etc. You just know facts, right? But ultimately, those facts need to be shaped into arguments. That is where words become their most powerful. That is where we move on from, elementary school, junior high, high school to college, hopefully, and beyond, is not just the facts. You can pass the AP test or what have you. You can pass the test because you know what happened on such and such date. But you know how to use those facts and turn them into a powerful argument. These are the facts about, let's say, immigrants living in the United States. Here is why I can turn that into a persuasive argument for overhauling, revamping our broken immigration system, right? This makes good sense to do this, to create a more robust work visa system, given the reasons people are coming to this country, given the problems, et cetera, right? So these are the kind of things. Persuade me. There is so much evidence out there. There's so much content. You are going to be mastering it week after week with these weekly essays. Then in the midterms and the finals, you have a chance to show me what it means, how to use the information to convince somebody. Don't just give up. Don't just say there's no right answer. There's too much information. It's too confusing, right? No, there has to be a right answer, at least for you, at least for the communities you care about, given the values, that we start off with. There may not be a single simple right answer, but there can be a best answer, and we can move forward. And this is the way in which humanities and words teach us to be better humans. And this is what I want you to practice doing with a persuasive essay, right? This will help. If you can persuade people, you can use that to make money and to be hired and to be useful. You can also use that to benefit your community, and you can use that to live a more meaningful human life. Okay, so this is why I'm wanting you to write this with these midterms and finals too. Similarly, right, with the midterms and finals, you can write it without help from AI, or you can use AI. If you use AI, you again need to write a short summary before you use any AI. Before you consult AI, do your best, right? Write your own summary of these kind of about 250 words in this case, of your argument, counter-arguments, and the most relevant evidence that you think. Then you can put the AI-generated text, right, 1,600 words or so. Then you should, again, go through and change it and write another 250 words or so to explain the changes you made, at least 250. You can write more anytime, whatever. This is the meta conversation we're having about how you used AI, how you used it responsibly, wisely, shrewdly, and why someone would want to hire you because you're good at that. And then if you choose not to change anything, write it 500 words then. What you learned from it, what the AI produced, why it was better, and what you learned. Okay? Finally, career counseling. This is a little point. I always make this in all my classes. Professors and students are a match made in heaven, if I can use a study of religion kind of joke, right? We're a match made in heaven because you like to learn, we like to learn, we're at the cutting edge, creating new knowledge. You are getting the best, most updated material that we're working on. That's great. We are also a match made in hell. To become a professor requires very, very specialized resumes, very, very specialized training that 99% of jobs are very different from. Most jobs out in the world where you use a typical resume and cover letter are completely different from the kinds of materials we use to get these jobs as professors, and are very different from the kind of training we have. So professors often have no idea how to get you a job, including me. I will include myself, right, along with my colleagues. However, I do happen to know a number of career specialists, people who have devoted their whole lives to helping you get jobs, to thinking about resumes, marketability, visibility, networking, portfolios, internships, industry connections, and all these kind of things. And they have them, and they've been building them up for many years. These people are already on the UCR campus. They're in the career department, and they're waiting to help you. They're already paid for by your tuition, by your tax dollar, by your, whatever, the people of California's tax dollars. So go see them. If you see them, whether in person or online, send me proof. Send me a screenshot, for the email appointment, or not me, but to your TA. And then we will give you extra credit. And again, a small amount, but it's, something just to encourage you. If I were you, if I were doing college, I know there's a lot of anxiety. Can I get a job? Can I get a good paying job? I would go see these people. These people, their whole job, they won't make fun of you for having a C average or having dropped out of bio. They don't think that doctors are the only job that's out there. Like whatever. They understand where you are, who you are, and they will help you. Or if they don't, they will help you. There are lots of tests you can take to understand your strengths, to understand your values, to understand what kind of jobs fit and what you can get paid for doing. Hopefully, something that you're good at and that you like doing can also pay you. I mean, of course, to do all three, we can't all be, professional, basketball players or whatever. But hopefully, you can get at least something that you love doing, a little bit. And there are these jobs, and there are people to help you get them, right? So please see a career counselor, probably multiple times, but at least once for extra credit. Break the ice, and go out there and be successful. Okay, so the grades are pretty simple. 50% of your grades are these 8 weekly essays you'll be writing, 25% midterm, 25% final. TAs will be doing all the frontline grading, reading everything. So talk to them first if there's an issue. Talk to me. Secondly, if there's more of an issue, usually they'll refer it to me. Or if there's a question about the larger structure of the class or the content of the class, feel free to come talk to me. As far as for overview of the course, basically in weeks 1, 2, and 3, we're going over the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible. That's the Pentateuch, the historical books, the so-called writings, and the prophets, with essays due throughout, and then midterms at the end of week 3. Then week 4 and 5 will be covering the New Testament, the Synoptic Gospels, letters of Paul, the Johannine tradition, that means the Gospel and the letters of John, then the general letters and Revelation. Again, there will be essays throughout with a final exam at the end. Okay, so I think it's pretty straightforward. Each of these overall themes, like I said, covers a number of chapters. Usually we're doing close to about 10 chapters every or so every week. Okay, about 100 or so pages of material in this textbook per week. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to going on this journey with you. Check the YouTube channel. I will be posting videos not to replace the readings, but to supplement them. They will by no means be comprehensive, but they'll give you a little overview of my understanding of some of the most important issues that the text addresses, things you can look out for, things that are interesting to me. But anything that's in the text is fair game. These authors are experts. They know what they're talking about. Anything I mentioned in the lecture, provided you understand it correctly, is also fair game. If you feel like you don't understand me, if I misspeak, which is certainly a possibility, please send me an email, right? Say something, and I am happy to clarify. One last point I will leave you all with is I often say UCR students are really excellent in every way. I've been to many of the top private schools in the world. I spent, for various reasons, I spent time there myself, or people I know well, spent time on these campuses. You are a lot grittier and tougher than most of those students, at the Harvard, Stanfords, Yales of the world. You are just as smart as them. But one thing you definitely lack is confidence and arrogance. So, in those classes, if I say anything, lots of times in the first, lecture like this, hands are already shooting up. They want to challenge me. They want to ask me questions. They want to, give me their theories of the universe and life and where America should be going for the next 20 years. Fine. That's how they are. They go in there as masters of the universe. UCR students who have a lot more better grip on what people are actually going through and living through, oftentimes, and are just as intelligent, might listen to me give some, say something completely ridiculous, like how Moses, the lawgiver, rode into town on a automatic transmission car from the 1960s, and then they just think like, okay, that was weird, and they just write it down. Instead of raising their hand and challenging me. Obviously, this is an asynchronous class. You can't raise your hand, but send me an email. If any of my lectures I make a mistake, please say something. Please do something if you don't understand correctly. But any of these, hopefully these video lectures will help supplement, but the book will be the ultimate text. And of course, if you understand me, I will not be lying to you in these videos. So thank you so much for sitting through this one. I'll be seeing you around.